All right, welcome to this episode of JB&A Today, the very special interview edition. These are one of my favorite shows because I love it when I get to have somebody come on the show because it's just not me being a nerd. I get to nerd out with other people and I get to have fun conversations with the pillars of industry. And so today is one of my very, very favorites. Now, before we get into that, of course, I have to do the housekeeping things. If you have questions, if you want to know about ordering, if you want to know where your order is because you got ahead of the curve and already placed one, there's the digits. Utilize those to get a hold of us or call your JB&A team member. As always, if you have questions, ask them in the chat window or in the Q&A window. We will try and get to them towards the end of the show and make sure everybody's questions get answered. But again, now that stuff's off the table. Oh, and there are 2 handouts. Make sure you grab them before they're gone because it's the World Wide Web and they will disappear at the end of the show. Okay, so again, really exciting day for me. Okay, so today I've got Dr. Andrew Cross on the show with me, and this is one of my favorites. Now, we have a standing rule, he and I, that we don't talk about work when we're on these calls. We talk about the industry, we talk about the technology, but we try not to talk about work. But I am breaking the rule today because if you didn't notice, they dropped like a megaton level bombshell on the channel, on the industry this week with the release of the TC2 Elite. And this thing is amazing. So he and I are going to talk about this. We're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to show you what's inside and what the value points are and why you're probably going to want to get one ASAP. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Andrew Cross. Sir, welcome and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm very happy to be here. Always enjoy coming and talking to you.
I appreciate it. It's a blast. So we got some stuff to cover today. You guys just released the TC2 Elite. I mean, in a nutshell, wrap it up for me. What is this thing?
Can I give you the slightly longer than nutshell version?
Oh, absolutely. It's our show.
Okay.
We got all the time in the world.
Because I actually think it's kind of interesting because we were getting ready for NAB. We were, doing all the NAB stuff that every company in this industry does. We were doing the, crunch. It's almost time to launch. And then this Corona thing happened. And, we spent a lot of time looking to think about, the industry, what this is going to do, what this is going to accelerate, what it's not. And we realized that we needed to change, we need to take a step back. The product that we were making wasn't the right one. We needed to, kind of take it to the next level and build a product that really is the right one for the next generation. And so we didn't announce anything at NAB major, as you noticed. And the reason why is that we went back and thought, okay, we're not here to make the next iterative improvement. We've got to design the next generation of TriCaster. And that's what we're releasing now, which is the result of doing that. So I think that this, this product to us is not just the next version. It's really hopefully it's a bigger step forward that tries to reflect, I think, where the industry and broadcast and the use of streaming needs to go as a whole. And so that is what really drove us, is we wanted to do something far more meaningful. And that's how this product was actually born.
And it's a phrase I'm kind of like done with. It's going in my swear jar. It's, where we find us now or the current climate or, how things are currently. It's the one I've heard too much, but I think you hit it with this, that you did need something different to meet sort of where production has gone. And we talked about it recently on other shows where so much remote production is happening now. And the inclusion of NDI into Skype and into Teams is a good reflection of that. And so I think with this release, you did say, I think you achieved, this is the product that is needed for how people are doing production now, or how they need to be doing production now. So I agree with that, and I think we actually discussed this in our previous show. I think that this was born out of us sitting there and thinking, okay, so this current situation ends, and we all go back to work. What do we do? I go and get my coffee, and the reason I bring that up and the coffee up is some habits are very hard to break, and I think that when we all go back to work after Corona,
Some things are going to go back to how they were before. We're going to breathe a sigh of relief that we've got our coffee, we've got certain parts of what we do, but then certain other things are going to be different. And it's my belief, and I believe this very strongly, that one of the things that we learned while in Corona was that we can do shows, we can interact with people, we can bring in callers from other places. We can, we can have callers that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to have come into the show. And that's not going to go away. So you're going to sit down in your regular control room with your traditional equipment and go, okay, I'm going to do my show. And the producer is going to say, but I want to bring in so-and-so from this location. And that's not going away. And that is why, and I'm going to go one step further. I think that if we think, okay, so somebody's buying a production system for use in a show, is a production system that can't make it easy to bring in remote callers even valid in the modern world? And to me, the answer, quite frankly, is no. That it is unimaginable that there is a show that doesn't need the ability moving forwards to always be able to have the ability to bring in callers. And so, what we realized is when we sat down and talked about this is because we've been working with Skype for some time, and Skype is really great. It probably still has one of the best systems for this, and that's what we're using in this call. But the reality is that when you look at the industry, people can't always design their whole infrastructure and show around the capabilities of the product. It's the other way around. And that's why we needed to make sure that we can support all the major callers. And that's why we gave ourselves the seemingly impossible task to work out how to support, as many of them as we possibly can, as well as we possibly can. And, it's those shifts in the markets that drove us. And I love being in the position. It just makes me feel that we've done something right to be able to sit here and talk not just about features. We added this capability or that capability, but that they're actually there because they hopefully mean something to people, which is always, what hopefully makes for a good product.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was on a call yesterday, and I've been on a lot of these calls talking about what, as companies are beginning to think about coming back, how they're reevaluating conference rooms and migrating away from large settings or large rooms where a bunch of people will pile in and start to think about smaller huddle spaces. And then in turn, how do they connect with other huddle spaces, and how do they start to continue to have these meetings, right? And so that, and even as we talk about the schools, and the schools are talking about, hey, there's probably going to be a new hybrid model where some kids are on some days and some kids are on other days or half days. And that even as we begin to think about coming back to our normal lives or whatever that is going to be, that there's still going to be a change in how we communicate. And it's going to be less about large group gatherings and more about individual connections, and then how those people are going to connect together. So it's very timely that this version hits with all these great features. I'm going to duck off for 1 second because I forgot to bring my power supply. My laptop's yelling at me. It says, hey, you need more power.
See, we haven't solved that problem yet, have we?
Well, wireless power is in my phone as long as my phone is touching something, but not my laptop. Yeah, we haven't solved that problem.
I know.
I think power is the one problem that we will probably forever and a day, be dealing with.
I know.
It's never going to change. But it was interesting to hear from these conference room ideas that their thought process is going to be that the conference rooms are going to get smaller, and they're building Zoom and Teams into every one of those devices so that it has the ability for somebody to walk in with a device and connect into a meeting, which truly shows where your product is evolving to be that aggregate to say, awesome, I can pull all these people and broadcast them out.
So that's our goal, and I think that beyond that, the need for broadcasting, and I hate to use the word broadcasting actually, but the need for video and the ability to produce quality video is going to grow immensely because product launches need to be done this way now. Sales engagements need to be done this way now. Trainings need to be done this way now. Company communication, just internally as well as externally, are just much better done this way. And you can't do those in a quality way if you don't have the right tools, and if you can't then bring callers in. And that is the shift that is happening and won't go away.
Yeah.
So we need to build probably the first product that is truly designed to embrace that, and that's kind of what TC2 is.
And it's great to see that this has sort of become the digital glue between the broadcast and the conference space, right? That there's now, you're sort of sitting in the middle, bridging these two worlds with this product to say, hey, it's all now come under one umbrella.
That's right. I mean, but it's all video, and it's more people are going to need producing more video in more ways than they ever did before.
But
And
the word broadcast still scares some people. I mean, and, when you tell them it's a broadcast product or it's designed for broadcast, they sort of shy away from it and go, "Oh, that sounds really hard to use." And I think as these, as yours continue, but you and I were just talking about how you can utilize a Word doc to now automate your show,
yes,
right? And so these types of tools are, I think, solidifying the use of broadcast technology in the
yes,
rest of the communication world, right? And the places that would never touch it, they're used to their
yes.
single input devices.
Well, it's about, 30 seconds ago, I actually tried to avoid using the word broadcast, and I corrected myself because I think that it is misleading. I mean, I think that, to me, the goal has never been how do we serve broadcasters as NewTek. The goal has been how do we produce great video, and and the use of video goes so far beyond what broadcasters do, and it is enabling, inspiring, and allowing that is our mission. And broadcast quality matters, but that's a different thing because I do think that quality matters. I think that there's lots of surveys that show that people associate value to content that is of a high quality, and so the quality does matter. And so talking about broadcast quality matters, but I viscerally recoil a bit to the word of broadcasters because I just think it's so underplays what the opportunity, the products, and the uses are to talk about it as broadcast. It's just become so much more than that. Are we a broadcaster here today? I don't think we are. And what we're doing is really cool. Yeah. 5 years ago, a show like this was unimaginable. And 5 years from now, hopefully there'll be even more of them. So that's why I think it's bigger than broadcast, which I'm not trying to choose our own tagline, better than broadcast, but it is well chosen for that exact reason, which is it is about more than broadcast.
Yeah, agreed. It's way more than broadcast. Well, and it's the core of communication, and communication hits so many different realms, from one-on-one communication to one-to-many communication. And we talk a lot right now about how teachers are struggling to engage their students utilizing the off-the-shelf tools, right? And keep their students engaged, and when they're at home with all these distractions around them. And suddenly this is not a broadcast tool, it's an engagement tool. It's about creating more engaging content to keep your students connected to you in the moment so that they can learn and they can grow and they can come out of this unscathed, right? And ready to tackle or be the next great engagers, so to speak. And so, it definitely hits so many different, issues of the day, so to speak, in how we're going to continue moving forward with our communication skills.
It is, but it's exciting. I think it's exciting. You're seeing, it's rare that you see big changes in the world, and I think they tend to happen slowly, and I think that we're seeing it accelerated now, and that's exciting. And it's exciting, and that's good. And I like, I'm excited to be part of that.
Yeah, that's fun. It is fun and exciting to be a part of it. Let's tear this thing apart a little bit, and we're gonna do it by the numbers here. So, okay, NewTek, TriCaster 2 Elite. Now, I say tear it apart by the numbers because there are a lot of numbers on this thing. I love it. The 4 DDR players. So if we compare TC1 to TC2, it's almost like Moore's law here. We almost have a doubling effect, right, in certain feature sets. So 4 DDRs, 10 animation players, 5 still buffers, 55 clips players. I mean, like, the numbers just keep stacking up. But my favorite is the 32 source channels. So being able to now expand from 22 virtual inputs to 32, and that's just more content available for the users, to take access of.
Yes. Now, first of all, I think something is that we're far beating Moore's law. If you compare to when TC1 came out, our view has long been that we solve the scalability problems by being smart about how we go about solving them instead of just relying on just brute raw performance. But I think that this slide, if you just totally take the numbers out and ignore these numbers, the goal is you need to be able to bring video from anywhere and send it anywhere. Today, in a modern world, we're not sitting there just pulling loads of local cameras now. You need to be able to pull in NDI streams. You need to be able to pull in SRT streams. You need to be able to pull in RTMP streams and laptops. And the need of a production system today is not one that has some fixed set of inputs. And so it's not just these counts. When you say source channels, it's as much about the flexibility of those source channels that really matters.
Yeah.
And that is something that we've put a lot of effort on, and have really worked very hard on making sure that there's just totally unrivaled sets of sources. You need to be able to take media from anywhere, make an amazing show, and send it anywhere. And that's one of the things that's driven us here. And and I should highlight, because it's not on this slide, but having 8 SDI inputs is also very big. I see you've got them here, don't you?
Well, I was going to proceed through that. I mean, and I want to come back. You mentioned something there just a second ago, is being able to get video from anywhere and send it anywhere. And I want to put a pin in that one and come back, because there was a slide in here that rocked my world a little bit, and then I want people to see and kind of you and I to talk about. But yeah, I mean, as we start to go into this, right? 4 transcoders, so 4 SDI and NDI. So it's not just about what's available in this box, but what you're making available to the other users on the network by utilizing this as an encoder as well. 4 DDR players, encoders, 4 multi-viewers. Yeah, the numbers just continue to stack. The 8 mix outputs, so we're doubling the the TC1 from 4 MEs to and now 8 MEs on this. This is very close to the VMC1. I mean, we're getting to those numbers that the VMC sits at, but in a non-VMC shell here, which is built on the TriCaster standard.
Well, I'm going to say this in many ways exceeds VMC1. This is the first TriCaster where we have got 8 entirely separate outputs. And I should say that so we've had 4 for a long time. And well, wait a second. Let me just interrupt myself here. I think we need to maybe be a tiny bit careful about. I need to be careful about the terminology, because we have a huge number of outputs, and we're only here, and I'm talking about the fully mixable outputs, because we allow media players to drive outputs, we allow buffers to drive outputs, we allow stills to drive. Everything's an output. But what we're talking about here are the number of mix outputs. And we've had 4 of those for years. And it is tempting, and it was my temptation, quite frankly, when you look at 8, that one thinks, well, that's just double the number. But I can tell you, in practice, 8 feels like infinite, where 4 doesn't. Because I cannot come up with any reasonable use case where I get to 8 that isn't contrived. And so the feeling that you get using 8 is fundamentally different than the feeling you get using 4. It's not just twice as much. It feels like, okay, I've now got complete flexibility. I can use these anyhow. And honestly, that's not what I expected. I'm saying that after having just used it myself, and the way it feels different from how I expected, in a very positive way. And that's something that I found surprising, actually, is that this just gives you the flexibility, to have any number of onset monitors that you could ever reasonably want, or have a second output with different titles. And there's all sorts of things that it just, okay, I'm going to use another output for that it enables, that really is very powerful and very useful.
Yeah, no, agreed. I struggle to fill all 4 of mine, and then to suddenly think, oh, what would I do with 4 more? Well, I think I can come up with some ideas, but it's going to take some time.
Well, I actually think that getting to 4 is not that complex. You can get to 4. If you use program preview and clean, you're at 3. So getting to 4, hey, a secondary monitor. But getting from there to 8 is a lot harder. And so that's why I think this feels just like it gives you just unbelievable freedom. And when you combine that with what we do with 8ME rows in terms of the flexibility, the processing, the virtual sets, everything else we do, the difference is just incredible. And the amount of power it gives you in your show is remarkable.
Okay, so you mentioned the 8 SDI inputs, so you now got a full 8 here, and you have a full 8 outputs as well, as you can see. So just a quick highlight of those. The other one that's pretty spectacular is Genlock, and Genlock has always been there, but this is a black burst generator this time, correct?
It certainly will work off a black burst signal, and I should say that this genlock functionality was actually one of the most complex things to implement in the product, even though it's one that maybe most people don't think about. But making sure that you have a fully synchronized outputs to an external genlock signal, plus the fact that almost all of these outputs can be in multiple different formats. So you can use these SDI outs to put out, a 4K, an HD, and two SDs, no, three SDs or whatever. I mean, the combination of all of those and keep it all synchronized is actually an incredible technical challenge and caused us no end of grief in designing this product.
There almost never is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 multi-viewers this time. So, one extra multi-viewer, which adds to that flexibility. And, that fourth one, I think is going to have a permanent home, and we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Kind of what that is, but I'm a data guy. I'm a network guy. I love network storage. The NRS from you guys is powerful to me, and the 10 gig included port on this one is awesome. So I mean, and it's been fun to me to watch over the last 5 years or so. Watch the price on 10 gig connectivity go down, 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 and the switches come down. And actually, there was a time when we were bonding 1 gig ports for people to get the data we needed because they couldn't afford 10 gig. Now it's like it's native. Everywhere I turn, 10 gig is sitting there ready to go. And so it's awesome to see that hit in this as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if people aren't using it today, I think it allows you to, to have the confidence that as you grow your facility, as you grow what you do, that you can expand upwards, pretty much to, to any level, which I think is truly valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I always hit the wrong button when I want to erase the pen. Oh, there we go. And then a USB-C port included in this as well. So you've got that USB 3 high-speed connector there. So lots of great. And then the most important for people who are into redundant power supplies. So you hit a lot of the big bell curves on this. We already drove through this. Okay, so here's the one that I wanted to come back to you on, because you mentioned about the anything to anywhere, pulling lots of sources and pushing them to lots of places. And the 32 sources and 48 outputs, right? Having that sort of massive flexibility. I mean, you mentioned it's not just about the 8 MEs, it's about the DDRs and the internals and all the source flips on there. I mean, you've got so much content available to go out. And that's a lot of sources hitting the network, which opens up a lot of interesting doors for combining multiple units together with individual control services. It's a lot of available content on the network.
It is. I mean, I think that somewhere along the way when you build these systems, you go from it feeling like you are building your show around what the system does to one where the system is giving you creativity to build new kinds of shows. And I think that once you get to the level of IO this has, you get to that point, and it's kind of like the uncanny valley, in 3D rendering, where suddenly the way you build shows feels different. And that's how I feel about this product. And quite honestly, that's why I view this. I've worked in NewTek now 20 years. And there's a few, it's always fun to look back and go, well, these were the really big things we did. I predict this is going to be on my list. And for that reason, because I think it crosses the valley of, okay, this now moves you to a level of creativity and producing, flexibility in producing your shows that makes the feeling of the whole show and the whole experience change. Obviously, adding NDI was one that was exactly the same. Suddenly it felt different from just having connectors on the back of the machine. But I think this is the next generation of that, which is something I feel incredibly good about.
Yeah, it's spectacular. And so where it kind of hit home for me was this piece right here, talking about Crosspoint Control. It's when the old days, when I would put together an Imagine or a Grass Valley router, a big router, it was always about the Crosspoint matrix, right? How big can it be? What does that look like? And so it's always tied to a big brick sitting in a rack somewhere, right? A big giant mainframe of all these inputs and outputs. And it sort of reminded me of a conversation from about a month and a half ago with a gentleman at the NFL talking about doing remote interview production from his garage, and how it wouldn't have been possible with his baseband routers, with his baseband material, because of the big all the machinery he would have had to bring into his garage versus a network switch, a TriCaster, and a few other components, and he was up and running and he was producing content. And that concept of having all that available source, but really breaking this down to being a giant video router. And in a sense, the TC2 is a 60 by 48 NDI video router when you pile in all the other available sources. That's a big number. I mean, that's a very large space in a rack that it's now compressed down to a very small space in a network switch.
And one connector. I mean, if you're running 10 gig, you plug in one connector and it's done. 60 times 48, if you're plugging in SDI cables, is a very big number to plug in.
I think the biggest one I was ever on was 1024 by 1024, and the techs who were crimping the cables were very angry at us for a long time because they spent days cutting cable, and I'm thinking to myself, this is beautiful. One 10 gig port, and I've got a massive router set up over, instantly. So that's powerful. I mean, that to me is kind of accentuating what you were saying about creating this environment, and now you've got, in a few ports, a 60 by 48 router.
That's the goal. I mean, this does change the way you think about a show, and that's key. You can put this thing not quite in a backpack, but you can put it in the back of your car and take it and do a show. And you're taking all that equipment, including the router, everything else that goes along with it, and that's that's very powerful.
Absolutely. So the I/O modules, and then then there's an interesting concept here of sharing sources. Now that you've got this ability, this giant router, and then suddenly we start thinking about, well, do I want to have dedicated, East-West coast? Am I combining the power of multiple TriCasters together? I mean, this thing can get insane really fast. And again, if you tried to do this with a baseband router, you'd be talking about, now it's not a 60 by 48, but you'd be, taking that thing into 300 by 300 squared in order to support all the sources that are sitting here.
Yes, but one of the maybe least known features that we actually added for VMC1, but it's fully supported by this as well, is that the ability of our control panel to support more than one unit, so that it can directly drive multiple units, so that you can assign different units to different ME rows, so that you can be controlling multiple shows, multiple switches, more outputs all at once. And that's something that probably not many people realize you can do, but it's actually a very cool capability and just adds to the overall flexibility of everything.
Yeah, no, I want that client. I need to talk to them. I want to talk to them. I want to know what that show is that they're doing. That's spectacular.
Yeah,
too much fun. So lots happening there. I think so. One thing that you and I barely talked about is format flexibility. I mean, you talked about it in terms of the gen lock and the synchronization of your 8 outputs. But the one thing we don't really talk about anymore is, well, is it 4K? Is it 1K? I mean, you've got this this Swiss Army knife effect here of it doesn't matter anymore. Sort of what your source is. Is it 1080? Is it 720? It doesn't matter. Is it content is really the question anymore.
That's right. And let me add another dimension to this that's not just resolution, which is something we had full support for in this product, is the ability to use rotated video, to use non-square video, to put together things like double wide HD, so 3840 by 1080, put them out to 2 HD monitors. Those are actually very big things, because increasingly, display technology, the way you're driving show is on multiple projectors, where you want to have one show that spans to a double wide screen, or that is a vertical screen that's going on to the, because the displays in your lobby, TVs on their side, all of that flexibility and driving all of that from one product and driving all of those outputs is unbelievably powerful and important as well.
Yeah.
And this product has all of that built into it.
Absolutely. Okay, which is where we get to the new thing that it's got built into it. And I'm just going to go to this slide. So for me, this is like the earth-shaking, groundbreaking, the atomic bomb just went off in the backyard moment here, because we've been showing people for months how to connect to Skype, how to use virtual input to, bring your TriCaster into a Zoom conference, how to set up multiple computers with scan converter to pull different, single point feeds from different users and bring them in as individual sources. And then you mess it all up for me by releasing this multi-channel conferencing built right into the TC2. This is cool. This is really cool because, as you said earlier, this is that moment where you said we wanted to build something for what was going on right now, and this is where, for me, you hit it out of the park.
This feature was, was obviously born for this moment, and came out of us thinking, what do people really need? How's production going to change? And our conclusion was a integrated production system that doesn't allow you to just bring in remote callers on anything they want, and it is not what you want anymore. And so this now just becomes like the make or break feature. Do you want to do a show with a caller, or do you want to have the capability of doing a show with callers? The answer has to be yes. It's a binary decision. You can't have a system that doesn't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why doing it well, doing it right, and making it the best was absolutely our priority. Yeah, and that is what drove the development of this feature, quite honestly.
Well, there was that moment a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even still going on based on the calls, where it's like you can't get a talk show. I mean, you can't find one on a shelf anywhere, because everybody's doing this, everybody's integrating and trying to pull signals, and then it's like, oh, perfect timing. So for those of you who are scratching your head going, what is it? Effectively, I talked about that fourth MultiViewer output that's there on this. It's not on the TC2 or the TC1. There is an environment where you can launch GoToMeeting, Skype, Zoom, Discord, Tencent for right now. These are and Teams. These are the beginning ones. Launch them on the TriCaster and utilize them to bring into up to 9 callers as individual sources into the TriCaster. So when we talk about this one having 32 inputs, 9 of those are effectively individual callers that you can bring into a conference call and have them individualize as different inputs in the TriCaster. So they all become sources. They're all on a party line. They can all talk. They can all be brought in and out the way I'm bringing you and me in and out. But you're effectively creating a show now with 9 plus the 2 Skypes are still available, the 2 TXs.
Yeah, so I mean, actually, if you really wanted to, you could run a Teams 9 and a GoToMeeting 9 and a Tencent 9, and you'd have, yes, so you can run every one of these apps and get 9 out of every one of them if you want. I mean, when I said flexible, it is. Ooh. I doubt that somebody could work out how to control all of that with just 2 hands. but
come on.
I should give a prize to the first person who successfully does that. But we send the show back to them so that they can see the show. We send the mix minus back. I mean, we hopefully have done this right. I mean, I think that we design a workflow that hopefully makes it so that you can actually really run a show with this, that you can do it on the production, and successfully run a caller show with any of the major platforms, very, very easily, and that's been our mission.
Yeah, it's been amazing to me. The best, the mother show is so many large organizations. They're saying, hey, we're communicating remotely. We're doing all this remote, and I say, well, what do you need? They said only things that are certified on Zoom or Teams. Don't bring it to us unless it's certified on one of those 2 platforms. These are like the dominant forces right now that the schools and and everybody's using. And so when this popped up, it's just like done. TriCaster is not just certified from an external input, it's now running Zoom and Teams internally, bridging these calls and putting together a bigger, better production.
Yes, I actually think there's something magical about there's some kind of critical mass of calling schemes that you get to, where the product goes from being one where, okay, there's a way to integrate an external caller, and you build your show around the system, in the same way that I said earlier, to one where you feel pretty confident that, let's say you as an independent videographer can go in and do a show for somebody, and pretty much no matter what calling scheme they're going to do, you're going to be able to run it in your show. And that is a big divide. It's a divide where it goes from being a product that you can actually go out and use freely and feel like you're being creative in producing a production with, from one where you have to build the production around the limitations of your system. And that is, why we didn't just go, well, let's get Zoom in there when we're done. We said, no, it's going to be more, because, that's the big one right now. But, Teams is important, Skype's important, and we need to work with them all. I mean, that's the right answer.
No, and the fact that it's just easy to turn on. And the demo, so somebody already asked, I mean, are you using a TC2 right now? And I'm like, no, I haven't gotten mine yet. It's on the way. And I will be. All shows from this point forward will be done that way. But it's that moment, it's that moment when we realized we could light up Skype and do a conference call and pull in individual users off of Skype. Each of them became their own source from an external machine, right? And we sort of hit that and realized, boom, there it is, right? There it is right there, because that just answered 80% of the questions that were coming across my doorstep and my engineering team every day is, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we make it easier? How do we make it faster, right? And so you guys, you sort of just like, you just laid it online and said, there it is. You've now got the ability to craft a show, but not have to have the external hardware always, right? Which was sometimes the fuzzle with people. It's just built in, and you know, the ability to roll over to that app, check your call. And when they were doing the demo for me, we were watching how it dynamically adjusted based on how many users were in the call, right? If there were 5 users, 6 users, a couple dropped off, and the multi-viewer changed to adapt to the moment. I thought it was just really, really an intelligent implementation of the product.
Well, so our challenge, I mean, I think that, so let's be honest, today you could run Scan Converter and probably do a Zoom meeting. It's just, it is difficult, and things happen, and it sucks. I mean, it's too hard to do and to run a show and make a great show. You're not thinking about making a great show. You're thinking about making the Zoom part work.
Yeah.
That was our problem to solve. I mean, there's a lot of great things that we've done, but if I'm trying to say what is fundamentally different, what am I proud of here is that our focus was, you've got to be able to use this in a real show where you're not thinking about, if you will, the friction created by trying to run the calls. And if we achieve that, then we're successful. And that is why thinking about the layout, minor things like making sure that if you minimize this thing, video doesn't stop, which is, if you're using Scan Converter, you minimize it, your video's gone. Those are details that you just can't have in the back of your mind bugging you while you're producing the show, that if I press this, the show goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why what we've done, I hopefully gets those right. And the reason I'm saying this hopefully is, I'm somebody who always believes that we've got to improve our things. We're going to make them better. And I know that when we're going to learn a lot from users, and there's going to be some things we didn't think of, and that's wonderful. There's nothing I want more, because that means that we can still improve things. And the moment we stop doing that, life is boring.
Well, and that's the power of software-defined video production, is you've got the ability to adjust and flex and grow and meet the expectation of the moment, right? As people come up with new ways of breaking it, you're able to achieve new ways of fixing it. And
that's exactly right.
It gives that flexibility that you don't get from a piece of hardware that's baked. It does that one thing, and it will always do that one thing. It may do it well, but it only does that one thing. And this flexibility here is about meeting this current place we're in. I mean, it cracks me up. And we had clients that were looking at, okay, we're a city council, and our biggest problem right now is the city council members don't want to show up in the building. So how do we, suddenly integrate them on Zoom or whatever platform and bring them in? And it's like, you just drop the answer. Actually, my favorite one is once we made that call, or you and I talked about it, the chat blew up, questions came flying in, and one of them was mind blown. So I think the message came across. Everybody gets it. Like, okay, this is awesome. But there are so many productions that people have been hitting us with of, how do I do this remote with multiple people that the standard TX couldn't accomplish, right? And now be able to expand upon that, and this just knocks it out of the park. So it's going to be fun. I cannot wait to get mine and play with it and test that, because we're going to break it. I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
That's fine. Well, my challenge to you is you've got to do 9 simultaneous people on every calling scheme at once.
Oh, my IT guy's going to scream at me, "What are you doing to my network?" Nobody can answer the phone. That'll be perfect. Yep. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think, this opens up so many new avenues for the usage of it. We stumbled on a great one recently, which was about remote training and being able to, integrate around the concept of car repair or other things, being able to pull the caller in and have simultaneous conversation. You know, and it's not a one-to-many, it's a true one-to-one conversation, but with a multi-cam approach, right? And it's like this now, you no longer have to have that third-party system doing it. It's just right there, and they don't have to say, oh, it has to be done over Skype. Now they have the flexibility of going, I can work this over whatever platform our company chooses, and just opens up a massive market shift. So I think this for me, like I said earlier, this is the big explosion moment. You know, this is where it all came together for something big and special. Now, there are all kinds of other things in here we can talk about, more channels of recording and replay, you know, obviously live panel with custom control. Everybody's enjoying live panel. I just lit that up for a client yesterday on a demo, and they just like, the guy left the control room and says, I may never have to come back in the control room again. This is great.
Yeah. But by the way, another capability that this has that actually is done in very similar ways, that we allow you to run a browser and directly bring browser content straight into your show. So you can be running right alongside your you know, your calling schemes. You can be running a full browser with every capability of a browser, like the ability to properly log into websites, to maintain accounts, and bring that all real time into your show. And that might be seemingly a small thing, but given that the web is the #1 source of content out there, it's big. And you know, the other magical dot that this connects that has never been connected before was the fact that we have our graphics system, and we have the ability to take content that's in that web page and direct it into the templates on graphics, so that if you're doing a news show, you can quickly look up one of the people that gets mentioned in a call and then put it into the graphics template, so it's presented with the look of your show. So you can real time be doing the research, inserting the content into your show in a constrained form that's not just straight pulling up a web page. That might seem like a detail, but in practice, that is an incredibly important piece of functionality.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's always the struggle in a conversation like this, as stories or ideas erupt. It's you know, hold on, let me get to that content. Let me try and find something that backs that up. And the fact that the TD in the background or producer can be sitting back there generating content on the fly that's relevant to the moment, right? Or if it's a corporation, they're saying, well, check out the changes we made on our intranet. You're not being slave to somebody having, you know, put a scan converter or run that data. That's very, very powerful. I dig that. I dig that a lot. Automation. You and I were talking about this one earlier, and I'm still learning how to use the automation side of this and use the script control, but I think it's a very powerful tool that more people need to take advantage of if they hadn't yet, and that's the ability to generate a Word doc with commands in it so you can run a show. I mean, I run this one by myself, which is why there's always mistakes, because I'm cool like that. But is one of the things I've noticed as once I really started to, my engineer Rick kind of was the one to start breaking it for me to show me how to use it, was the ability for me to quickly go in and write, my opening monologues, whatever piece. And as I like to pull a lot of video clips into those, be able to tie those into the script and be able to drive the script. And I think it's a tool that more people need to look at, because it truly changes the complexity level of a person running a show that may not be as, may not have all the talent yet, may not know where all the hooks are, but know what they want to achieve and what they want to get out of their show. And this makes it simpler to do.
To me, when we created this, the thing that really stuck with me in the creation of this was that we in the industry have this vision that people sit down and build their show in front of a production system, in front of a TriCaster. Well, they don't. They are probably on their laptop, or they're probably on a plane, or they're somewhere else when they're thinking about and preparing for their show. And we needed to make that easy. And the tools that they're using to do that are Word, they are text editors, they are Google Docs. So we needed to remove the step between that and then producing the show, and that's what we try to do here. So this is the ability that wherever you are, you can feel comfortable building your show, and hopefully you can even teach people who are not producers to build and script at least a big part of their own show, and then run their show directly. And those are things that change the way people work, that was the exciting part of this to us.
Yeah, and it's a unified tool set as well. We're not saying like, hey, you have to go load up this special script software or, this teleprompter software. It's, hey, go grab a Word doc and enter in the data you need, right? Or, in Open Docs or whatever it is, and,
Yes.
and start to write. I mean, for me, it's sitting on the couch watching TV with my wife and kids. Suddenly an idea pops, or I see a commercial and
That's
I'm like,
right.
yeah, I'm totally gonna do that, right? And so then I immediately open up my phone and a notepad and I start jotting the ideas down, and that's where the creation begins. That's where, it starts. The other one that this did for me personally was it was one less keyboard and mouse on my desk here. I'm down to two now, which is awesome. Well, if you can't, the MacBook sitting next to me, I'm down to two keyboards and two mice. I have a KVM sometimes as well, but because I've got a computer driving sort of the peripherals like, the TX and, I want to come back to that one. The TX and the GoToMeeting interface, I got to keep that one open, but then simultaneously I've got my TriCaster control. And so to not have a third machine driving teleprompter, but to be able to drive the teleprompter using NDI monitor right out of the TC made it even easier. It was just one less device sitting here that I had to manage and one less thing I had to think about. And then tying in automation at the same time was like, oh, and I do like your control, your T-bar control for speed better than the one that was on the teleprompter I was using before. It's way easier. So
I don't know if everybody knows this, but a kind of little subtle tip here is that this will work with a Contour Shuttle controller. So if you just plug one of those in, it can be used to drive our teleprompter. So it supports full remote or external control as well.
Okay, Google. Order a Contour Shuttle.
I don't know how many people know that, but it's incredibly useful.
Hey Google, I'm kidding. Stop. I didn't think it was actually going to answer me. No. I love AIs. Oh, it's the best. Sorry, thoroughly just took us off the roadmap there. And unplugged. That's the little things. Oh, good times. Good times. Well, now that I blew the moment, technology at its finest.
I know.
I love it. Love it. But yeah, very, very. So Contour Shuttle. We'll come back to that one. Good stuff. All right, so we're nearing the end of the hour, and people have a lot of questions. So I want to try and make sure we can get into those. But a couple here, kind of out of the gate, people are asking about trade-in of old products. Yes, of course, there is trade-in programs. Hit the team. We can talk about what you have and what you get. Let's see. Yeah, so there was a question about hitting the market segment for corporations, and I think we just knocked that one a loop, with the integration of Teams and Zoom and all these things right in the box. So that definitely shows where you're focused on that corporate segment for small corporations needing to stream.
I'll probably drop a little tidbit here, which is it's our intent. Please don't hold me to this. No hate mail, no pitchforks, but it's our intent to get Slack integrated as well, because I know that is very big in companies, and we do view the use of this within corporate and enterprise as truly valuable. So that is how much we care about it, and we're trying to do that. The engineers are probably cringing that I just said this, but that's our goal, and we don't, so I put them on the spot now.
There is a question about, well, and Slack's good. I mean, they've always struggled on the video side. I communicate with a couple of our partners over Slack, and I've always got Slack, Zoom, Teams, Skype. Everything's always open, but video's always been their struggle point, and this would be a big boon for them to get that in there. There are removable drives on the TC2.
So the question was removable drives?
Yeah, are there dockable ones like the old 460s and earlier generations?
Oh, the world has changed a bit since then, and I would say, first of all, I'm going to give two different answers. One is, this is a lot smaller and we're cramming a heck of a lot of stuff in there. So that's kind of answer number one, but maybe a more useful answer is that the world has changed a little bit. I think that, the 10 gig is really the answer of how you want to be doing that, because it gives you a true flexible approach. where you could get as large or small of a removable, drive array as you need. That serves pretty much anything you want. And quite honestly, the benefits of these kind of technologies is that they're going to allow you to go and choose something that's really perfect for your needs, where having me choose it for you is probably not as good. So I would say, the USB 3, the 10 gig are probably the best answers for removable storage in this day and age. And I think that is, ultimately going to give people better results than us trying to make it all fit within one case.
Yeah. Well, and and drives themselves have changed. NVMe drives, I can say that, right?
Yep.
NVMe drives are really the standard now. And they bring
Yep.
so much more power and flexibility to them, smaller size, faster speeds, direct PCIe connections. So, I rarely see anything built anymore that doesn't have an NVMe drive in it versus a traditional spinner or a dockable drive.
Yeah.
And so, I think you're right. I think the way that recording, and especially the way you've enabled recording to be done both internally or externally, and be
Yep.
run remote, and then the inclusion of the NRS and the ability to capture IP feeds remotely and go
Yep.
direct to editorial, the need for removable drives is sort of slowly melting away. Of course, you can still plug one in over USB, and now
Absolutely.
you've got USB-C, so you can get some faster ones in there, but it's definitely changed.
Yep.
Okay, here's a great one. This is going to be a fun one to answer. So the Vis Opus production switcher seems to be very competitive with TriCaster in capability. Why, and what's sort of the dividing line or the development roadmap between these two products? I mean, they're obviously one's run by Viz, parent partner company to you guys. I mean, at the core, it is effectively a TriCaster, is it not? Or is it, we're based off similar code?
Okay, so first of all, we're one company. We develop, everything. We work as one company. Opus actually, so the Vector is the product that's quite close to TriCaster, but they're targeted at different markets and do different things. And so, I mean, I could go into the differences, and I certainly don't want to, talk about roadmaps, towards the future. I think that but we're one company. We gain a lot of benefit from being able to, we probably have one of the largest R&D organizations with the best innovation across the entire software video market. And that's going to continue to be our goal. And we're going to, serve needs from classrooms right the way up to the highest level broadcasters. And when you buy a TC2, you have the benefit of knowing that it is built by the company that is serving CNN. But CNN also know that their products are built by ones who understand how you're going to want to bring in remote callers and work with external companies. And the differentiation is also, and the ability to work across those markets is a huge benefit to the whole industry as a whole. So I don't see a hard delineation. I see it as a huge benefit that we cover such a large range and we can offer so much to so many people and bring the experience from one area into the others, because the whole market is changing. It's not, hey, the enterprise companies are doing one thing. I mean, the same is happening on the other end, and we're learning from everybody and hopefully being able to develop, efficiently for everybody.
And the requirements of a traditional linear broadcaster who's hitting satellites and telcos is one that can frankly be a pain in the rear. So I love the fact that this community of the individual broadcasters that we talk with so often, the schools, the churches, the corporations, don't have those restrictions on them, don't have always those requirements of, it's got to meet all these specifications. The flexibility is they just want to make content and they want a tool that allows them to do it. And so I love the freedom that they sort of bring to their content creation, and then the freedom that this product gives them to be content developers.
Yes, but within broadcasters, I mean, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble because there's probably one left, but I don't believe that the traditional linear broadcasters anymore. The technology used in broadcast is quite remarkable and is changing dramatically too, and so that's why it's a really exciting, it's an exciting space to be in right now as a whole. And we're the biggest company building these kind of products, which is great for everybody. It's certainly great for our customers.
So here's a really technical one that you might want to tackle for me is the question was working with NDI cameras, how does Frameaccurate sync and delay work? So how is it syncing to the TriCaster over NDI?
Oh boy. So this is one of those questions where I kind of wish I wasn't an engineer sometimes, because I have to say it's a really complicated to answer that properly, because it is a technically complicated question. I can, at a user level, I can say, our attempt is to make you not need to think about it. But when I deal with 100 people a day with different setups, so certainly some complications to that, and it's very hard for me on a call here without a whiteboard and a chemist coat to make me look, to give a good answer to that. The issues of synchronization are very complex ones that are often vastly overlooked when you think about a system like this, because we talked about, look, you can bring anything from anywhere, and then never mentioned the word sync. But the word sync is just the elephant in the room in making that happen, and it's a very complex problem. And I'm afraid I just probably can't answer it easily on a call, but not that it's not there, and not that it hasn't consumed a lot more of our life. Why do you think I said Genlock? It's all the same thing, isn't it? The timing on all of this is incredibly difficult, and getting this right while also maintaining lower latency is actually a really difficult problem. And I would say some of the magic sauce of the things that people don't notice that really goes into what we do is how to solve those problems.
Yep. Barry, my answer is it just works. Don't question it. It just works. So the great question for the audience is, how do you initiate or join Zoom and Teams calls? So there is a whole sort of app ecosystem or a panel that you guys have built that allows you to download the appropriate Skype or Teams or Zoom or GoToMeeting app and install it on the TriCaster and run it. And then the calls are either initiated or joined from that interface. So it's effectively the same interface, but it's done directly on the TriCaster.
That is right. We've tried to make it so that if you use Zoom, it's Zoom. And we then do all the magic of making the workflow work, hopefully with you not realizing that you're not using Zoom. So that's the goal. It's got to work in the way that you're used to working, and not. I should have said, oh, there's a command line. It's command line, and you get the hex address. No.
Terminal. You got to fire.
Yeah, hopefully we've made it be the experience that you are used to on whichever calling scheme you are using.
Absolutely. And these features, and so kind of answer are only available in the TC2. So we're not seeing this as an upgrade on other platforms. This is a TC2 only feature, correct?
I think that right now we're talking about TC2. There will be lots of magic in the future. There always will be. And one of the things that I know.
Leave me with that one, man.
I know, but you know what? I'll tell you something. Whenever we do a product like this, it's tempting to think, okay, it's kind of done. I mean, a integrated production system. How can you innovate it further?
Yeah.
Because we can add more channels. We can add, but how do you make it fundamentally better? And I think that we've consistently done that, and are doing that here again. And there will be plenty more magic to come. We're absolutely not done with the the innovation and the creativity yet. We've still got cool things that I hope will change the world of video still further.
Here's a fun one. I would be curious if you guys have noticed it yet in any of your tests. How are you handling echo cancellation or any kind of echo in these calls with Zoom or Teams or Skype?
Okay, so we do a mix minus back. So they shouldn't hear themselves, which should minimize the echo in theory. Different, we have only some degree of control over this, because some big part of this is done by the underlying platforms. And we can't kind of defeat what the underlying platform is doing. That is why even on this call, I'm using a headset.
Yeah, same here. Mine's over here, folks.
Yep.
Yeah. There's some things you can't defeat, no doubt about it.
I just at a technology level, I can say that there's really great AI starting to be used in these calling schemes that is going to really improve this a lot. And so the future is bright on all of these technologies.
Yeah, somebody was commenting on the sync there, or the delay issue I'm having on audio today, and that is a GoToMeeting issue that I'm struggling with. Fair enough. Okay. Oh, are we accepting toasters as a trade-in for a TC2?
I'm afraid I don't. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. It depends if it's for bread or for video, maybe. Call a sales or channel partner, and I just don't know the answer.
I'm just saying, if you've got one and it's still working, don't unplug it. Let it roll. Continue using it. It should be a source into whatever TriCaster you add.
Yeah, I've got to say, if you have a working one, you probably shouldn't give it up, because
my director of sales just came on in a text. No, the answer is no.
Okay, so apparently no, but quite honestly, that's an incredible system that's part of the history of video. If you've got a working one, don't give it up. It's a remarkable thing, and it is more than 20 years old now, and probably did as much to revolutionize the whole direction of TV and video. That don't give it up. Make sure it continues working. It's a piece of video history you've got. Don't trade it in.
Okay, here's an issue. Is there an option to split control of the Elite, one station for TD, another position for players audio? Well, see, I would assume no. I mean, really, 2 users is about the most you can put on a standard user, because of the fact that you only have 1 mouse and keyboard and 1 control surface. However, that would be really, for me, where the web player or the web GUI would come in, right? That's
yeah. So I would have thought that it's pretty easy to get to 3. I shouldn't say easy, but you can get 3 with the live panel plus user on the system plus control surface.
Yeah.
I bet some clever person is going to tell me there's an easy way to get to 4. I think if you're there, you might want to be thinking a bit about other parts of workflow change, though.
There's got to be a Scarhori panel for that one. Yeah. So yeah. Let's see. What about integrating YouTube, Facebook comments in a graphics key?
So what we described. So first of all, let me answer. That's actually possible on a TriCaster today. There's actually probably about 10 ways to do it, and Kane would find some really, another 10 more. But if you, quite honestly, if you use the Chrome plugin, the TriCaster Data Link plugin, you can do this really well today. And this system makes that way better by doing it all on one system, but it can absolutely be done. But it can be done on a system today as well. If you, there's training videos online. You should look at this if you don't know how to do it, because I think it's probably one of the most undervalued and utilized features in our system.
Yeah. Sorry, there was a question that just came in that I thought was interesting. It was about closed captioning support on the Media DS. But that is a Wowza issue, I believe, isn't it?
That is a complicated issue.
Yeah, that's a fun one altogether. I told him we'll get back to him on that one. That's not one I want to tackle on this show. But you're right. I mean, and there's also integrating things like New Blue Effects, and there's tons of great third-party integrations that can be done over NDI.
Well, yeah. So that's exactly right. I mean, there's ways in our system. There's ways without. Outside our system. The NDI allows you to go and find probably a solution to almost any problem you can imagine. So that there's probably, we could probably do a whole show just on the different ways to do this, which is testament to the flexibility of these systems.
Yeah. All right. So here's a great one. What's the pathway to 8K? Is it there yet, or is that still to come?
8K is a complicated thing. I mean, I think that I want to see the whole world doing 4K.
Yeah.
Let's democratize that, and then worry about 16K.
Well, and with H.266 only being ratified what, last week? I think we got time, before we see anything crazy with 8K. And nobody's broadcasting. ISO record options. How many ISO records? What did we decide? It was like 8? Or no, 8 total channels.
Yes, they allow you to. look, you can infinitely ISO record with all these systems these days.
Yeah.
Because, even with NDI tools, you can set up, remote, on the network records. I mean, recording is no longer a limitation. And one of the huge, upsides of NDI is once you've got these bits and they're flowing around the network, there's just absolutely no problem taking them and storing them on disk.
Yeah. Max number of callers at one time, so that was 9. But that's in each individual, max number of callers on the conferencing integrations. So it's 9 per conferencing software. So 9 per Zoom, 9 per Teams, plus you still get the 2 Skype TXs, so technically 11. And then you can, stack those up as many times as you want.
I mean, let me just say, in all honesty, if you want to go more than 9, I would be saying going with Skype TX is probably a better solution, because you really need some kind of call management at that point to do that. It's going to get difficult to juggle that many. There's not a technical limitation. It's more you're making a difficult show, and it's going to be hard to control if you don't really set this up carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Cost. Great show. Appreciate it. Thank you. Video codec. Oh, NDI and Dante synchronization. All right. Well, so now I didn't touch on this one. I mean, obviously Dante driver can be loaded up inside of a TriCaster, and you have access to Dante sources. Has anything changed in terms of Dante usage within the TC2?
Not on the Dante side. So I don't completely understand the questions. I wouldn't know completely how to answer it in, specifically. I can say that audio in our systems has changed very dramatically, and our handling of audio has got significantly better. And but there's a very technical thing on what we did. But I think that so without understanding what the problem is, I would say our audio really got a lot better in this version of TriCaster, and this change will be rolled into older units as well. I don't know whether that's going to solve the problem, because I don't know what the problem is. But
yeah, I think the question was kind of related to NDI and Dante audio synchronizing. And I guess my question is, well, I agree with you. I don't know the full scope here, but Dante has its own sync engine, its own clock running externally, usually in the Dante system, and obviously NDI is not using the same one.
Yes, and as I said, the underlying how do you clock all this stuff underneath the hood is one of the single most complex things we solve.
Yeah.
You could specify any source, in this system, but actually, if you have not used Premium Access, you might not fully. So depending on if a user has used Premium Access, they have access already to our significantly improved Dante implementation. If they don't, they should know that this is an area that has been already dramatically improved, and you can specify any audio source and map it into the Dante kind of 64 available channel count and not worry about the clocking. And that is available in TC2 Elite as well.
Nice. All right, so a lot of questions coming in on costs of trade-ins. What's the cost of Elite? And as I always say on the show, we're not here to tell you how much it costs. We have salespeople for that. We're here to talk the strategic nerdery factors of these products. So we'll pop that up on screen if I can find the right mouse. It looks like that. So if you have questions about what it costs, how to trade it in, when to get a demo, where to get a demo, here are the digits, call those, email that, hit your JB&A rep, hit your NewTek rep. As soon as we have these available, trust me, I will be running that thing on demo loop 24/7, I bet. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and probably be hosting all my conference calls in there as well. It's just gonna be that cool. Other than that, Dr. Cross, Andrew, thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I love coming on your show. I really, really do. You guys do amazing stuff. You run an amazing show, and it's a pleasure to be here every time I come. Well, I enjoy myself. Well, that it never takes me more than, when you invite me, it never takes me more than a few minutes to reply and say absolutely. It's never even a thought in my mind. I love your show.
I appreciate it. We have a lot of fun. It's I enjoy the chance just to dig in and talk about the tech. It's always a
Oh,
blast.
it's wonderful.
So, all right, well, we're going to leave it at that. There are more questions. If you haven't entered them in, I'll leave it running for a minute or two more. You can continue to ask those questions. We will respond back via email and get those rolling for you. Other than that, you have the digits. We will contact you. Shipping, I've been told end of the month. You know, these things are going to start being available.
Really soon. I don't want to jinx it. We're working 24 hours a day on this to make sure that we get this right and it's perfect. And every day, you know, somebody comes up with some crazy idea on how to improve it, and we have to work out whether we want to do it or not. So,
Tell them to stop.
no, but you know, making great products is that's our drive. But I'm going to. I don't want to jinx it, but what you said was almost certainly right.
All right. Well, we're gonna hope that it makes it. This will be phenomenal. I'm super excited about this. All right, I'm gonna call this one done and in the bag. Again, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. For all of you who watched, you're a pleasure, and thank you for being here as well. And we'll see you all on the next episode of On the Bench or JB&A Today, whatever we're calling this now. Just nerdery in general. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, talk soon.